Okay, so this has been like a highly requested video. I've had questions through my Instagram and also through my YouTube channel here. And I thought I would tackle some of these sort of taboo subjects that people really don't like talking about. It makes them feel uncomfortable. And quite often we end up just sort of quietly Googling them on our phones and exploring why do these things happen to us when we're pregnant. And so I'm going to explore a number of different subjects that I think will be probably entertaining, but also hopefully helpful to those of you that have been wondering. So the first thing that I get asked, and I have been asked in the past, is what's it like in terms of your sort of gastrointestinal tract when you're pregnant? And of course, you can definitely just look online and Google what happens to your organs when you become pregnant. They have really amazing visuals that show how everything just twists and turns and compacts and squishes in there. And so someone just straight up asked me, do you pass more gas when you're pregnant? And it kind of makes me laugh. I mean, I feel like a kid when I'm giggling about stuff like this, but yes, I mean, of course you are passing gas and it happens and you can't really quite control it, especially when you're as far as long as I am. I'm going to be 38 weeks next week. And so, you have a lot of weight pressing down on things inside you and, it happens, you pass gas, but like everybody does. So at the end of the day, just because you're pregnant doesn't mean that it's any worse off if you're someone that's not pregnant. I would say that it gets more uncomfortable because definitely there's so much pressure on your large colon and just your innards in there as the baby gets heavier. And so for myself, I often avoid a lot of food that might create gas just because it's just really painful. So usually I avoid things like beans and stuff like that just because I don't want to go through any tummy troubles. I've already got enough weight, I've got enough pressure and things going on in there that's sort of the last thing I really want to stress about and worry about and deal with. So the next sort of taboo subject that I think a lot of women are curious about and often wonder about when they start to see their bodies changing and transforming through pregnancy is you start to notice changes within your chest region, your breasts, and especially your nipples. And I know for myself, especially the first time around, it was really strange to see that like my nipples were actually darkening. And that is actually sort of a biological thing that happens. From what I've read, apparently your nipples darken because it helps a newborn to find them when they go to breastfeed, which I think is kind of cool. It's sort of like going way back into, the beginning days when humanity was starting and, and women were trying to breastfeed and survive and raise babies. And so I would compare like the changes in your nipples to being like if you went and suntanned on the beach without a top on. That's kind of what it's like. It's really strange. It's a part of your body that you just don't really expect to change in color, but it does, especially for women like myself that have light skin. I've noticed that, that's sort of how I can compare it to. And the other changes that you might start to notice, and it can either hit women sort of in the beginning of their pregnancy or more towards the end. I know for myself, I just weaned my youngest daughter, and so I'm trying to give my breasts a break before I have to nurse again with my newborn. But you'll start to get what looks like crusts on them. They kind of look crusty, and that can be a little bit scary. For us poor gals, hey, like the things that we have to go through. But essentially what it is it's colostrum. So that first sort of special fluid that you give your baby, it's like a magic elixir. And think about it as kind of giving them like a vitamin shot. And it's sort of your first milk, and it's really, really vital for a newborn. And if possible to give it to your baby, that's what it is. And it sort of looks yellow in nature. And sometimes on some women's breasts, it gets a little bit crusty. So it's just sort of like sitting in there waiting for when your little newborn arrives. And then that'll be your sort of first milk that you give your newborn if you end up breastfeeding them. So if you notice things like that, don't freak out. It's totally normal. And it's something that will sort of disappear in the first few days of nursing anyways, or if you end up bottle feeding, your breasts will calm down and the milk will dry up and that sort of stuff will go away. The next thing that I often get questions about, or just like discussing with some of my girlfriends who are on maybe their second or third pregnancy or more, is did I experience swelling down there? And the answer is yes. Unfortunately, it comes with the territory, especially in your third trimester as the baby gets heavier and puts a lot more weight and pressure on things down there. You have to realize you have all these nerves, arteries, and things that are down there. And so as the baby gets heavier, they're putting a lot of weight on those parts of your body. And so it does cause swelling. The other thing is that your blood volume increases when you're pregnant as well. So you've got tons of blood flow, you've got tons of sort of downward pressure, and so it naturally is going to create some swelling. Now, obviously, it depends on sort of your lifestyle, how active you are, whether you're someone that's really fit or not. I do believe that you're going to experience very similar symptoms. I know for myself, I experienced a lot more swelling with my subsequent pregnancies, just because I believe that things are sort of a little bit more stretched out down there. And, you know, this isn't my first rodeo. So I feel like, you know, I'm just more aware of this sort of stuff. And it can be really uncomfortable. If I've had a really active day and I've been on my feet a lot, I'll feel it more. If I try to take more breaks and rest, it's not so bad. So it comes and goes. And once again, nothing to sort of fret about. It does disappear. Things do kind of go back to normal. It's hard to believe that, you know, you can actually vaginally birth a child and then somehow everything just kind of goes back together. But I promise you it does. I'm doing this for my 4th time, and, you know, I'm proof that, you know, bodies can come back together each time. Don't freak out. Now I'm going to get into more of like the sort of the yucky stuff. So if you're someone that's a little bit squeamish, you might want to either fast forward this part or, I don't know, skip to something a little more happy. But most people that want to know these things, you know, I'm sure someone like yourself, if you clicked on this video, you're obviously curious. Maybe you're going through some of the motions as well. I don't find this stuff intimidating at all. You know, squeamish stuff just doesn't bug me. Like, if you want to show me an open heart surgery, I'm fine with it. You know, I can't really handle those videos where they do like the pimple popping extraction stuff. That just like repulses me. But if you want to show me like a live birth, that's probably fine. Some people were curious about sort of why is it that sometimes when you go to wipe, you get sort of like a snot-like material on your tissue paper, your toilet paper. And if you don't know this, basically what happens is shortly after you become pregnant, your body kind of creates what they call a mucus plug. And it's probably not the right technical term for it, but it's essentially like a barrier to protect the baby inside you. So to prevent any bacteria or anything coming up there and infecting the baby. And so it's kind of another survival mechanism sort of thing. But what happens is throughout your pregnancy, sometimes some of the mucus plug can sort of come out, it can dislodge just little parts of it, and it just regenerates. So, you know, when women go and they go to the bathroom and they wipe, some people freak out and think like, what is this stuff? Like, you know, is this bad? Like, what does this mean? Often, you know, I've seen questions of women saying like, it's tinged, it might be pink in color or even a little bit of blood, like I'm scared. You know, if you have concerns, go to your doctor. I would never discount that. But for the most part, all of that stuff is really normal. And your mucus plug can kind of come out in little bits and then your body just regenerates it. So nothing to freak out about. You know, if you start to experience a lot of larger pieces that are coming out, that's a sign that you're probably getting close to delivery day. I know for myself, that's sort of been my experience in the past. You know, it only starts to show itself towards the end in my last sort of week or two before I go into labor. And those are great signs that you're going to be going into labor naturally. Otherwise, if you're like 2nd trimester and you see stuff on your toilet paper, don't fret. It's just part of your body cleaning out itself, regenerating, maintenance, all those sort of things. So totally normal. One thing that might be new for some women, especially first time pregnant moms, is your cervical mucus starts to increase. And it can be confusing for women because sometimes you think, did I just pee my pants? Like, what just happened here? And don't feel ashamed by this, okay? I've had situations where like I've coughed too hard and, you know, I'm starting to like run to the bathroom because I can feel wetness. So there definitely is a difference. Like, yes, you can have leaks, you can have accidents. If it gets really bad, obviously I would invest in some liners or something to kind of, you know, prepare yourself. But there's also sort of an increase of fluid down there as well. And you'll probably notice it more so in your 2nd and 3rd trimester. And it's just one of those sort of nuisances that, you know, happens. It depends on what you're doing. If you're really physically active or you're walking around and you might just feel like a little bit of a gush, completely normal. It sucks. It's not always nice if you're not near a bathroom or something like that, but don't worry. It's something that probably 99% of women go through. And if you feel really self-conscious or you're worried about it, just get some of those little liners, those little light period liners that you can put in your underwear, and you know, you might be able to sort of combat it for a little bit. But I know for myself, it didn't last through my entire pregnancy. It's not something that's chronic, and I really haven't had to deal with it much, especially in my third trimester. I can't really think of many times where I've had it, but at the end of the day, it does come with the territory, and especially after having more than one child, you might notice that the fluids and things are just flowing a little bit more down there, and it really just varies on the woman. So hopefully it's not a chronic problem for you. I noticed that some women get a little bit confused between what it feels like to have their water break and then what it feels like to just have sort of a gush of cervical fluid. There's a big difference. I know for myself, each time, 3 times now, my waters have broke, and it's been all one big, huge gush. The first time was at the hospital, the doctor did it, big gush. Second time, my water broke in the shower, big gush. Third time, I actually broke my own waters pushing our third child out. You know, that's been my experience. I know that some women can have your amniotic sac ruptures and you have this sort of slow leak happening. And it definitely is something that you don't want to take lightly. I think it's if you fill up a pad every half an hour to an hour of fluid, then you would definitely be going to your doctor or healthcare provider to seek some advice and get it tested. But for the most part, there's a huge difference between your water's breaking and just the general fluids that are coming out of you. So there you go. There's a little education on, you know, the fluids that come out of us during this period of time in our lives. And yeah, it's just kind of comes with being pregnant and going through this journey. But hopefully it's not an issue for you. And, you know, hopefully when the day comes, if you're pregnant like myself and your water breaks, it's a very obvious thing that you sort of clue into. So the last thing I'm going to tackle is always a juicy question that a lot of pregnant women get asked is, did you poop on the delivery table? And I definitely was really anxious about it the first time that I had a child. I just, for some reason, you know, you want to maintain your dignity, and you just feel mortified thinking that here I am pushing out, you know, the love of my life into the world, and I'm spread eagle. And the last thing I want to do is take a dump on the table at the same time. But the thing is that, you know, you're using a lot of the same muscles down there as you do when you're like having a good one. So it happens all the time. And actually nurses, doctors, midwives, whoever you're dealing with, they've seen it all, okay? It's not something that surprises them. It doesn't even gross them out. They literally are just so used to seeing this sort of process that it's not a big deal. Like, if you want to think about it, think about a farmer who goes and inseminates a cow. You know, they take those gloves and they go right in there. So, and they just, you know, they're used to it. It's not a big deal. It's part of life. It's part of the circle of life. So try to shelf your own anxiety and understand that they see it all. And the other thing is that, you know, you're already vulnerable. You're like, I know for myself, I'm at the hospital, usually I'm naked or I have a gown on. They've seen everything, okay? They've seen every unflattering angle of you. They're gonna see things come out of you. So don't put any onus on being mortified if that happens. If you happen to take a poop on the table, who cares? From what I understand, because I don't think it's happened to me, I've asked my husband through all 3 of our deliveries, I said, did I take a poop? Like, I was just curious. And he's like, no, I didn't see anything like that. But what I have been told by a doula friend of mine is that, you know, when it happens, the nurses are so fast to accommodate, or the midwives or whoever, you know, whoever you're dealing with, they're so fast to wipe it away and scoop it away that no one even notices. And if a mother does, it doesn't, you're in a different zone anyways, it doesn't matter. So, you know, it's not something that's going to affect, you know, the delivery of everything. Okay, so shelf that anxiety, understand that you'll still keep your pride if you do, and it's not a big deal. I know for myself, I went from like my first delivery, which was very textbook. I remained on the bed. I remember, you know, I was kind of discreet. I wanted to kind of, you know, stay there. I didn't want to try a lot of positions. But, you know, by the third pregnancy, I had my gown open. I think, oh, during my second delivery, I was butt naked. I came out of the shower and climbed on the bed and birthed our second child. Third, you know, it was like, give me any position just to find relief. So I think your sort of shame factor changes and you just become a lot more easygoing and laid back through labor and delivery, because you know you're in good hands, you're in a different zone, and it's okay to sort of be vulnerable. So I think that's probably covering all the sort of TMI, yucky, uncomfortable subjects that you guys were after. If you guys have any more questions or you're curious about anything else about pregnancy, please comment below or share with me on Instagram. I always enjoy having these kind of discussions, and I'm definitely going to be back and try and share with you guys a weekly update. I'm getting close, guys. I'm at almost 38 weeks now, and so hopefully I can be back and share with you each week of my journey leading up to this big delivery day. And yeah, I just appreciate your love and support, and I will definitely see you guys on the next one. See ya!